Nielsen.
So if you are new to us, welcome. If you've been with us for a long time, welcome. Today we are talking about holding space. And we're going to talk a lot about media and that there are situations that people wouldn't think about. Like I think about the first time when we first started going to IKEA when we lived in Salt Lake, and they would take the little ones into the daycare, but the big ones that couldn't go, they offered them like a Game Boy thing. Remember? And I remember thinking, why would I do that? Like, why would that be okay for them to walk? Like, because I'm just seeing like zombie kids walking with some phone or tablet or something.
Sometimes like a train of them. Like
yes, and I go, how are they? I don't know.
Like it almost was like there'd be a string tied between each kid, so they would just follow. Like
and I think, oh my gosh, I don't want that. I just remember looking at the lady at IKEA and I was like, no, thank you. But I think that it's part of our common culture, so I think it's important to talk about.
And it's not that we have no TV and
no,
video
right?
games,
Absolutely. But when it's like a holding the space issue, so maybe we start with like, what is holding the space? So have you ever noticed when you try to make a phone call and then your kids won't talk to you, or all the bad things happen when you're trying to make that phone call, or you're having a conversation with your partner and then things start to go to hell in a handbasket with kids? Well, it's because you're not holding the space. So holding this...
I think about, I was parked somewhere waiting for you, and Soraya was in the back, and all of a sudden
when you were on the phone with me or something like that. I
was on the phone, and she flipped over the front seat and landed on something and broke it. Just like, boom.
Yeah. She has this weird like ability to, I don't know, she's kind of like a spider monkey.
Yes.
So I think that really and truly understanding holding the space means that that you can understand the fact that when you have taken your energy away from that common space where your children are to something else, they feel it and it's palpable, and they can't go, hey mom, I feel you're not holding the space. What that manifests in is like, it manifests in kids getting into fights. It manifests in just naughty stuff happening. It manifests like, flipping over the seat. And it manifests in just things in general happening that should not normally happen. And so when we talk about holding the space, we're sort of talking about it from a perspective of understanding that you have this energetic field. And that's not woo-woo. That just is. It just is. And if you don't trust us, then experiment with it. Hold the space with your kids and then withdraw it. Go into a book. Pick up your phone. I think about the times that your phone was broken before, and it was because I was thinking about the screen, and it was like, oh, Dad, I want to see what you're doing. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it got dropped one of the times. And I think about all of the times that maybe I've gotten into reading something and all of a sudden I'm like, what the heck? And it's because when something draws your attention away from this common space where you're holding it with your children, you're cut off. So if you are engrossed in something, whether it be TV, a book, your phone, an adult conversation, just talking to somebody on the phone, or even being at the park and talking to another parent and being too engrossed, hi mom, being too engrossed in adult conversation will take that space holding away. And when it does, your kids don't feel safe, and that's why they act out. So they act out because they feel it. They feel that mom or dad is not there. And with that, I would say moms and dads hold the space differently. Like really differently. Mom might be, super engaged in play, and sometimes dad is too, for sure. I mean, I see some of the things that she makes you do. I'm like, oh man. Never a dull moment in the Nielsen house. Never a dull moment.
Well, I think about the grocery store.
And the grocery store is another place when you're trying to focus on what you're getting.
I use the Google Notes, the Google Keep to make the shopping list, because I can make it on the computer and it'll show up on my phone. And I take the kids to the grocery store, and at the grocery store sometimes, you know, those cartoons where like Snoopy and Woodstock are fighting and it looks like a cloud and it'll look like that, so I have to
like
go.
Salmon's right.
And Sam's old enough, I try to make a game out of it. Go, okay,
right.
Sam, you go get this, and this,
and he's
go back
12
to
and
the
a half.
cart.
Right.
And then I make a game out of it. Okay, Soraya, we got this left to do, and then I make sure I say, when we're getting in here, this is what we're doing, and we're going to get out.
Right.
And I'm only buying what's on this list.
right.
And
but I think that's a perfect place where it can happen. So if you're not like in that energetic space with them and you're really focused on your grocery list, it's really easy for things to happen, calamity to happen. So I think that really what I would do is, if this is new to you, I would step back and look at the last 5 times that you've had stuff going on. And people either getting hurt or being naughty or kids getting into fights or, you know, all of the calamities that happen at home, and ask yourself, what exactly was I doing? What exactly was I doing? And how did that fact that energy shift, how did that affect my kids? And really sort of owning it and realizing that generally when there's bad behavior, it's our fault. There's stuff that we're not doing, but it's easy stuff that we can do, like really simply, and making a few little changes will really help that situation, I think. So, with regards to media and holding the space, so often what happens, that what we end up seeing is moms that say, well, I play with them, but dad just wants to turn on his phone or watch TV with them. And I will say, I think that the television has its place, but not enmeshed in everyday life. I think that we take something that should be a treat or a relaxation thing, and we have it on all the time. We make it the main meal. We make it we do have a family movie night here, and I was thinking about when we were watching Matilda last week.
Yeah.
And Soraya was like really confused, I think, at this family that ate in front of the TV, did everything in front of the TV, and couldn't take their mind off of the TV to see the little girl's teacher or to talk to the little girl about getting a library card or any of those things. And she was genuinely confused about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we talk about this culture that we live in that's so tech oriented, we really have to examine what we're doing with media, how we're using it, and making sure that we're understanding the best ways to use media and the best ways that are sort of in line with the core values of our family. Because I think that that's the important thing. If it doesn't matter to you and you don't care how your kids act, swipe away. If you care about like how they are acting and you're having behavioral struggles and you're trying to sort out why you're having behavioral struggles and you've got media going on, then you should stay tuned in and listen to this conversation, because I think it's really important to sort of uncover that. Most people do not think about media, whether it be TV, video games, phone, tablet, because I've had people go, oh, well, I don't have TV. I go, but you got a phone or a computer? Because that's where they're watching their TV. If you've got a screen, then you've got TV. And even if it's not commercial TV. So I think you have to really examine sort of how you're utilizing that. So what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, there's the quantity issue, but there's also
the
the quality
issue. Right.
And it might not be that something is necessarily bad,
Right.
but it might just not be a good fit. Because when we were first married, it was like, okay, you're not watching SpongeBob. And a lot of people watch SpongeBob, but it was like, it's making you kids.
It makes kids crazy.
It makes you guys nuts.
There's a handful of things like that I go, okay, it's not okay. But there's not that many. There are things that I might go, y'all are losing brain cells watching this, but it doesn't make them crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to fuss so much. Pre-watch what they're asking to watch, like every time. That doesn't mean like, you have to pre-watch every episode, but definitely like if you're letting kids watch a new show, watch it first, especially if it's a series. Watch it first so you understand the content, you understand how the characters act together, so that you can get some foundation for what you're going to see act out in their play. Because if you have a child between 4 and 8, you will see their TV shows acting out in their play. There's no way for it to not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because they're beings of imitation and they love to imitate. And so there's really no way for you to not see that acting out in their play. So it's really about helping you to understand like what's great viewing and the amount of time. And I think that's going to vary per family, but we're happy to share what we do. And TV is not on every day. And it's not on, I don't know, maybe 3 days a week, maybe. And if we can, if it's not rainy outside, we might be like, let's go outside instead, for sure. I think that's getting a good, healthy balance between moving your body and being outside and spending time inside, I think is important. But then, content too. Like, go ahead, you were going to say something.
Well, one thing also is that being mindful about what's going on in their life.
Right.
There is a time in our marriage where we were dealing with ugly custody dispute. And as much as I'm a Star Wars fan, I wasn't letting them watch certain Star Wars movies because of the family issues that were going on.
Right.
It wasn't that I was afraid that they were just in general going to be rile them up.
And they were older at the time. They were like 7 and 9, but they were having some daddy issues. So
and I was like, okay,
we didn't want to compound that. We didn't want to compound that.
Yeah, I was like, that's not, that's not the time for that right now.
I remember one time when we didn't pre-watch something, and it was Maurice and Dak. What was that book? Where the Wild Things Are. Where the Wild Things Are. And we didn't pre-watch it, and it really affected our oldest in ways that we didn't expect it to. And we think that, it's got a PG rating, and that means that it should be okay, but really we have to watch things. I think we have to really watch things. And, it doesn't mean we've never been bit in the behind, but it definitely, when we then start to watch something and we can see that it's unfolding, we're there and we can then support what's coming after. And I think that that's really important. I think that you and I grew up in an era, we're in our 40s, where our parents just didn't really pay attention to what was on the TV. It was just go watch TV. So they didn't really have context to a lot of what we were seeing and what we were watching. And
when we've had parents that we've talked to that got bit by, they've assumed that manga or anime was all kids stuff.
Yeah. They go, it's a comic. And often libraries put them in the wrong place. Manga should be in the adult section generally. Not all of it, but a lot of it.
I mean, there's lots of different kinds and genres, and they're about lots of different things. But I've seen parents go, okay, well, that looks cute. And
right.
And then there's kids that get exposed to things they ought not.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. I think that understanding where it comes from and how it's very mainstream in Japan. It's something that they use to teach all kinds of things. It's a cultural thing, is to understand that there it's available in a vending machine and it's available very easily, and it's becoming more and more mainstream here, where you've got graphic novels and manga here. But just because it's a graphic novel or it looks cartoony,
an animated movie,
do not assume, whether it be movie or comics, do not assume that it's child friendly. I was thinking about one that I got at Comic-Con, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. Generations? I think it was called Generations. And it was a really well done. Like, I really enjoyed the graphic novel. I passed it on to a friend of mine. But it was a graphic novel about, it was a young man who was like 19, 20, and he was a gay young man, but he was trying to sort out, like, how do I fit into my family? How do I fit into, because he had a very traditional family. The story took place in Europe. How do I fit into my family? How do they approach me? Everybody's gonna think I'm crazy. Because he had to go home after living away. And that all of the emotions that come from that, whether you're gay or not, the emotions of going home after being away and all of that. But that was compounded because he lived in a very traditional family and he was struggling with, what's everybody thinking of me? And then also has the issue of, he had this partner that he had to leave that was much older than him. So there was all of this the stuff that was, while it was an amazing story and I really liked it, and I think it would have been great for like a teenager, an older teenager, like maybe somebody 16 and up or even 15 and up. So it was, because it was not graphic in that graphic sense. It was definitely
it was heavy.
It was very heavy. And so that's a really good term, because I feel like, it was visually appealing. It could have been like, because I remember there were a couple of times that Sarai was like, can you read that to me? And I was like, no, because it's not one, and it didn't have anything to do with the orientation of the characters. It had to do with the level of development she needed to be at in order to understand what was going on in the book.
Yes.
And that's another thing that we've always looked at. How old are the children or adults even in the book? What's going on developmentally? Like, for instance, people laugh at me, but excuse me, the first Captain America, I'm like not on board with kids watching that until they're at least 6th or 7th grade, because you have to get to a place where they are understanding war and understanding horrible people, so that they understand that there was somebody who was worse than Hitler. Because I think when you bring that to a younger child, they have no context, and then you kind of like ruined explaining Hitler to them, because you've already got, this bad guy, and they're trying to understand that context. So we haven't allowed that one for numerous reasons, and I know I've had people laugh at me about that when I go, really? Like, think about the content. I would think about the content and think about what's going on, and it doesn't have anything to do with the graphic nature for me of the violence or anything that's going on in that movie. I think it's just about where they are developmentally, and they're not ready for that until they're about, 6
I guess Wonder Woman was similar. It was
right. I was thinking Sam's not seen that either. So, I'm thinking that there are things that we allow once they get to that like 11, 12 place that we didn't allow when they were younger, even though their friends were going to see it. I want whatever they do get to see to make a good impact on them and to help them have like contextual understanding. I always think about when we took the big boys to see the first Iron Man, and so our boys were, gosh, how old were they? They were maybe 11 and 13 at the time. Yeah. It's about right. So one a little more immature than the other.
Jacob's question was, if someone kicked him?
Yes, exactly. Like, would he feel it? Oh, and Harry was like, he just sold weapons to somebody, then had to go. Like, he was like all about like the relationships in the movie and understanding. And yeah, he was into the like things blowing up and excited about it being Iron Man too, but it impacted him on a much different level because he was in that space of really thinking about things, where our 11-year-old at the time.
That was 10 years ago.
That's really crazy. That's really crazy.
It was a long time ago.
I know. Our oldest son is going to be 22 on Sunday, and that's really crazy that it's that long.
But then to circle that back around to the holding the space part is back to the quantity part.
Right.
Is the biggest telltale sign that they've had too much. Right. Is when you turn it off. Right. How they're acting. If they're like, oh no, I have to pee. We've been in that situation. Well, there's been a few things that Soraya got excited about that was on Netflix. And of course, Netflix is like, you watch an episode and it ends in a cliffhanger, and then before you know it, you've been watching it for 4 or 5 hours because what happens
whether you're a grown-up or a kid.
Yes. Because we've had instances where we were like, we're just going to watch one and go to bed, and then like 3 episodes later. Dang it, Netflix. But
totally messed me up. Luke Cage, all of those good Marvel shows. Dang it.
And which are not kid friendly.
No. We're just talking about our own viewing, not kid friendly.
But there's been things where it's like, okay, Soraya, you've had enough. Click. Right. And it's like,
but it's a cliffhanger. I have to know what happens to me in our unicorn. Right. And then the anger comes out. Mm-hmm. So if you've got situations where they're angry after you turn it off, even though you've given a predetermined, like, this is when it's going to be over, this is when we're going to be done, then you're probably got too much going on. And so I always say, if you have a fit when we're done, guess what? We won't watch it tomorrow, and we might not watch the next day. And so that usually reins it back in. But I think also, like, if you're going to watch a show, Mom, Dad, you got to know how long that show lasts. If it's on Netflix, it's probably only like 23 minutes.
Well, because what happens is if you're not paying attention.
Right. Another one will come on.
And they won't tell you.
Well, they're not going to tell you. And some of them happen, like the transition happens so fast because I think it's like 12 seconds after one stops before the next one starts. So you have to be, if it's 24 minutes, you got to like set your watch and go, all right, in 24 minutes, I've got to go wash the dishes or whatever it is that I'm going to go do. And then I got to be ready when 24 minutes is up. And we're leaving. We're going to go out. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to go play a board game. We're going to do something active so that we are not still mired in, what's going on here and sort of, just so crazy.
I was going to say something and then it totally fell out of my head.
Sorry.
It's okay. But,
is it there? Hello? No.
No, but I think you were worried when we first got married because
I just got a degree in film. I was
worried. And I was fine with it because I've seen houses where it just seems like it's this extra layer of chaos on top of things. And so I was like, no, it's chill here. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I was worried because one, he's a gamer. And two, he has a degree in film. So while I was madly in love with him, I was like, oh crap, there's this other element. And I already had 3 children and they were very, excuse me, before I got divorced from my ex-husband, they were like TV free. I mean, they might have had one movie a week in the winter because we lived in Idaho and there's like sometimes nothing to do but sit. And,
like 15 degrees below outside.
Yes, exactly. And so, and they watch things like Little Women. They watch The Sound of Music. So I was genuinely worried when we got together that it would be an issue, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And a lot of it was because you liked the way they acted. We sort of talk about this the first time we went out on a date and we had kids with us. And we had, we went to the store and I had said to the 2 that we had with us, if you run from me, we're not going to X, Y, and Z place. They wanted to go to it was like a Chuck E. Cheese kind of place. And they ran from me. And he was impressed that I held the space and said, no, we're not going there.
Because even though I'd been single with no kids for a long time, I'd seen homes where the kids seemed to be the ones that wore the pants in the family. Right. And I was like, when I'm married and have kids, I do not want them to be in charge of me.
I just remember that night thinking, oh man, it's totally screwed up now. These kids were so ornery today. And this is so I was so worried it was a deal breaker. And he was like, no, it was great. I'm so glad you were able to, parent them through that. And yeah, so it was really kind of funny. But anyways, I think we want to just close up and say, if you've got questions, hop over to the Peaceful Foundation's Facebook group and feel free to ask them there. Feel free to DM us if you're on Instagram and let us know if you've got any questions. But we love talking to parents and we love sort of helping families work through these issues. So have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Bye.